taking the fall. Hillary Clinton is now blaming her election loss on the FBI, and our next guest points out that this episode only reflects a gross mismanagement of the country's top law enforcement agency.
Yup, look in the mirror, lady. Here to explain, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano.
Good morning.
Judge,
Good morning,
you heard her explanation, and it really bothered you.
It bothered me. The criticism of the FBI, I think, is valid, and Comey has taken the FBI to a place where it doesn't belong. Its once pristine reputation has been tarnished. But it is not the FBI's fault that this happened. It's Mrs. Clinton's fault. She failed. The evidence of her guilt is overwhelming, that she failed to secure state secrets. And the evidence that the FBI did not conduct a proper investigation is overwhelming. So why didn't the FBI conduct a proper investigation? Because somebody somewhere north of Jim Comey said, we don't want her indicted. We want her exonerated, no matter what the evidence is against her. Why did the FBI reopen the investigation 11 days before Election Day? Well, they found what they thought was a treasure trove of emails in Anthony Weiner's laptop. It turned not to be a treasure trove. What did the FBI do wrong? They didn't work with the Justice Department. They didn't have a grand jury. Without a grand jury, no subpoenas. Without a grand jury, no search warrants, because judges will say this is not a serious investigation. And then when he said, in the middle of the summer, we're not going to indict her, but proceeded to outline all the evidence against her.
That means he should have indicted her.
Correct. And he infuriated the agents, people that we all hear from, off the record.
Yep.
In the investigation, why are you doing this to us, and why didn't you follow through on what we gave?
Do you think the outcome of the election would have been different had James Comey not come out 2 weeks before saying we're reopening this investigation?
Mrs. Clinton thinks that. I once thought that until election night. When I sat with the number crunchers over in the new studio, and I could hear them saying, you know, Romney won this county by 5,000. Trump's got to win it by 7,000. Wait a minute, he's winning it by 25,000 over and over and over again in blue-collar areas. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, he struck the nerve of the forgotten blue-collar voter, forgotten by the government, forgotten by the Democrats, forgotten by the Obama administration. She was part of all of that.
Sure. You know, Judge, it's one thing, and I'm sure, well, maybe President Trump will look into what happened to the IRS targeting of Tea Parties and whatnot, maybe. But, you know, just to think of what has happened with Hillary Clinton, where it looks like the Department of Justice, as you have depicted, is a political wing of the White House, that's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and I wonder what President-elect Trump will do. Does he want a special prosecutor to investigate what the DOJ and the FBI did in the last year and a half of the Obama administration, or does he want to turn the page, forget about history, and move forward? I don't know what he's going to do.
And what happens with James Comey?
My guess is he will have a different job a year from now.
And Donald Trump hedged on that in a 60 Minutes interview. He says we'll have to see.
And rightly so, because he probably needs more information before he can make that decision.
Judge, great to see you.
Pleasure,
and you can get that column online, right?
Yes, you can get it at foxnews.com and the Washington Times. I'm off to D.C. in an hour.
All right, good to see you this morning.
For a Brett Bears show tonight.
All right, see you on Special Report.
You got it.
Meanwhile, a roadside bomb took both of his legs in Afghanistan. Now he is Florida's newest member of Congress. So will he drain the swamp like Donald Trump has promised? We're going to talk to Congressman-elect Brian Mast. Good morning, sir. You're next.
A college graduate to pursue his next dream of being a congressman. Mast got to work and earned an economics degree from Harvard, and then went on to win a congressional seat in the swing state of Florida. And joining us now is decorated Army War veteran and Florida Congressman-elect Brian Mast. Good to see you this morning. Congratulations on the big win last week.
Thank you. It's good to see you this morning.
So we had you on, over a year ago, June 2015, when you announced that you were running for Congress. You know, a year and a half later, you've now won. Walk people through your incredible story. 6 years ago, you were in Afghanistan, hit by a roadside bomb. Your life changed forever.
It did. You know, I was working under the cover of darkness in Afghanistan, special operations. Basically, I found one bomb too many. I was a bomb technician, and I woke up about a week later in Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And when I woke up in that hospital, I made the commitment to my wife that I wasn't going to let the best defense that I give our country be something that was behind me. And that's how I came to the idea of ultimately running for Congress one day, to keep fighting for this place.
Because a lot of people would say, why would you want to be in Washington? Nothing gets done there. It is corrupt. You know, as Donald Trump says, that you got to drain the swamp. Why did you want to do that? Why did you want to get to Washington and make a difference?
It's exactly that reason. It's to come up here and fight in the way that we do it on the battlefield. If you're a soldier, if you're a service member from any branch of the military, when you go out onto the battlefield, you fight for this country. You don't fight for personal gain or anything else. You're fighting for the right reasons, and that has to be the way that you do it in Washington, D.C. The battle cry, drain the swamp, that's not about getting rid of everybody that works up here. It's about the way that you go about doing your business, getting rid of people up here that are going to be full of fear, that are not going to be strong, and making sure that we fill Washington, D.C. with people that serve selflessly and people that are strong and people that know how to fight for this place.
Yeah, and something you're really passionate about, of course, is VA reform and changes that are needed there. Obviously, you're going to have the opportunity when you get to Washington. What do you hope to change?
You know, the VA is servicing people that love this country so much that they were willing to give the last breath in their lungs. What they deserve back is love. And anybody that works at the VA that isn't giving them the love that they deserve, the care that they deserve, needs to be gotten rid of immediately. The veterans serviced by the VA, they deserve to receive care from anywhere that they want, whenever they want it, because their commitment was to serve every person across this land. It's what they deserve. It's what they have to have if we're going to make the VA better and we're going to make the lives of veterans better.
Yeah, you're talking so much about service. You've seen what's going on around this country right now. The protesters saying that President-elect Trump is not their president. Some folks burning the American flag. What is your message to them as someone that has served overseas, that now has worked his way up and has just won his own election? What is your message to them?
You know, burning the American flag is not an act of activism. If you want to look at true activists, look at people out there like Pat Tillman, who left his career in the NFL, went out there and served with the Army Rangers, was willing to give his life. That is what true activism looks like. It's not disrespecting your country, your flag, something that so many service members fought so hard to defend.
Yeah, powerful message and an incredibly powerful story. Brian, good to have you here this morning. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, are Democrats ready to say so long to Nancy Pelosi? Next hour, you're going to meet the man who could take her job as minority leader. And a huge show still ahead. Senator Ted Cruz, Judge Alex Farrar, and Megyn Kelly, they are all going to join us right here live. Stick with us. It is Thursday, November 17th. I'm Abby Huntsman, and draining the swamp and filling his cabinet, President-elect Donald Trump gearing up for another round of meetings today. So who's on the short list? Keep it right here.
Plus, they're protesting the election, but did they even bother to vote last Tuesday?
I didn't even vote because I was so disillusioned, but I think this whole thing has just been a wake-up call to myself and to so many other people of my age that are just disillusioned with politics.
Look, if you don't vote, you really can't complain, can you? Coming up, a message for those protesters that you don't want to miss.
Oh, wow. All right. Are Democrats ready to say so long to Nancy Pelosi? You're about to meet the man who could take her job as minority leader. Pretty intriguing, right? Sit back, get dressed, because your mornings are better with friends.
Less than a half an hour, Ted Cruz. We have lots to ask him about.
Also, Megyn Kelly's going to join the show. It's a new book out here.
Yeah, it's excellent. And Laura Ingram's here. Man, not only is she always intriguing to talk to, she's got something to think about.
Yeah.
And maybe being the next press secretary for Donald Trump.
Something really big to think
Indeed.
about.
And we got Abby Huntsman today.
Guys, it's good to be back. Was in Scranton, Pennsylvania the last couple days.
Yes.
Getting a real feel for the voters out there and how President-elect Donald Trump won the important state of Pennsylvania.
You've been all over the country in the last couple of weeks.
Flipping pancakes? I know how to flip a good pancake.
Who's got the best home fries?
Ooh, that's a good one. Florida's got some good ones. Florida's got some good ones.
I love this. I asked Abby how it was at the diner. She goes, you know, I always wanted to be a waitress. And
Too late.
You look like you could be.
I feel at home.
Right.
I really
You're
do.
so
Maybe they're just
comfortable.
being nice, but it's fun to get out there and
All
talk
right.
to the voters. All right, we do start here, though. A series of high-profile meetings, as we were talking about, set for today with President-elect Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's who's walking in the tower. And he's already taking steps to fulfill his campaign promise, that is the president-elect, to drain the swamp.
Rob Schmidt has been covering Donald Trump. He joins us live right now with brand new details about the day ahead as he looks for folks for his cabinet.
That's right, guys. And in a city stock full of lobbyists, this is rough news for a lot of people in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump's Drain the Swamp slogan really connected with voters, and now many in D.C. vying for a White House position need to decide if they want to be a lobbyist or if they want to work for the president, because our next president will not let you do both. The new rule, if you join Mr. Trump in the White House, you are banned from being a lobbyist for 5 years as part of that agreement. His transition team says this is the first step of draining the swamp. President-elect Trump is working hard to lay the foundation for his cabinet with a series of high-profile meetings today. Some of the A-listers heading to Trump Tower in Manhattan. One-time rival, South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who's now said to be a candidate for Secretary of State. Also, former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. Florida Governor Rick Scott and retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn is reportedly the top contender to become Mr. Trump's national security advisor.
No formal announcement yet for that position. General Flynn met with the president-elect today. He's been a companion on the campaign trail quite a bit, as we've seen over the past few months.
But are you denying it? Will you deny it here?
I'm saying he'd be a fantastic addition to somewhere to the administration. I'll let the president-elect make that decision.
When are we going to get the decision?
I'm a huge fan of General Flynn, and I'll leave that any decisions.
You think tomorrow?
I'll leave that to the president-elect.
It's going to be a wait and see. Earlier this week, Mr. Trump said today would be the soonest that he would announce his final White House team. And guys, I still can't get over seeing Ted Cruz walk into Trump Tower.
Oh,
all that.
That would have been great.
Never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Rob.
I would miss General Jack Keane here, but man, would he be strong, and does he have universal respect from Democrats and Republicans? Both presidents kind of tapped into him over the last
He could still be a guest.
last 12 years.
Sure.
Yeah, I hope we'll return our
Look,
calls.
here we are. We're a week and a half after the election. All we know for sure is that Reince Priebus is going to be his chief of staff, and we know that Steve Bannon is going to be his chief strategist. Everything else is speculation, and yet the mainstream media is making it seem like, man, this Trump guy doesn't know what he's doing.
It's
There's
like a fantasy football
There's
draft. It's
chaos
exciting.
over there. Exactly right. But when you look at the charts, and we've put together, our brain room has put together a chart of past presidential appointments. Far left, the number of weeks after they were elected. As you look, Richard Nixon made all of his selections in the 6th week, and then Carter, forget about him. But then you go over to Ronald Reagan. Most of his appointments came a month and a half after he was elected president.
Meanwhile, the media is freaking out. I mean, they aren't. Not,
do you think?
Not only are they just talking about this, they're like in hysterics about the fact that we're, 8 days past Election Day, and he hasn't picked one cabinet member. You know, someone I always love listening to is Charles Krauthammer on our channel. He's one of those people that every time he opens his mouth, you have to stop and listen to everything he says. Here's what he said about this coverage. Take a listen.
I think the coverage is slightly over the top, in fact. It's remarkably over the top. First of all, as you showed in that chart, historically, there's nothing unusual about not having made an announcement after 1 week and 1 day. Second, the Trump campaign has been described as in disarray since about January, and he won the election. Third, I don't think there's any question that if we come to Inauguration Day and we don't have, say, a Secretary of Commerce nominated, the foundations of the Republic will not be threatened.
He also says there's a swimsuit of the portion of the show will be coming up shortly. Some of the other names that are kind of interesting. Governor Perry, who quickly went from adversary to ally. He's looking to be lined up as Energy Secretary. Henry McMaster, possibly AG, along with our guest coming up shortly, Senator Ted Cruz. And they're trying to convince Jamie Dimon to consider Treasury Secretary as well. They want the business people involved, and I think it's making Wall Street happy. Steve, you know better than me, but man, it seems like the stock market's going through the roof. Investors are elated about a guy they were originally very on the fence with.
Right after he was elected, the stock market futures on Wednesday morning went down 700 points. But of course, we've since had a great big rise, one of the best in a very long time.
I thought what Krauthammer said, though, the middle point that he made was so spot on. As the media reported about his campaign being in disarray from January until Election Day, he ultimately won this election.
He did.
So people love to assume that everything is just chaotic behind the scenes. They don't know what they're doing. You know, President-elect Trump he's never done this before.
You know what? Apparently Joe Biden didn't get the memo, because yesterday he met with Mike Pence on the steps of the Naval Observatory where Mr. Pence is going to be living. And rather than go ahead and buy into the narrative by the mainstream media about everything's in chaos, it's going to be terrible. Joe Biden said, I am confident on day one everything will be in good hands.
He also said they didn't know what they were doing when they got in there on day one.
Apparently
this is the reality of stepping into that.
It's a tough job.
I like the way Donald Trump's method of running things is this. I have a person in place. If they're not working out, I'll get a new person in place, and I'm going to march forward. I'm not afraid to make change. Hence, Governor Christie moved down to vice chair, and a lot of the lobbyists moved out. It's not a big deal. The lobbyists are out. A new person's in charge, and now we move forward. And he deserves the benefit of the doubt. He won.
Yeah. Take a deep breath. Take a step back. So we've been following the protests
Elections
around
have consequences.
They do, and we've been following these protests around the country over the past week or so. And Rutgers University, the latest college to take to the streets, calling themselves a sanctuary campus. But the question is, do they even know what they're protesting? Take a look at some of the footage that we got.
This is a fine example of how we need to come together to show support for everybody, and everybody who's going through situations where maybe they are in fear that their mom, their aunt, family members might not feel safe to be here anymore because a man is threatening to send them back to wherever they came from, which is extremely disrespectful.
I didn't even vote because I was so disillusioned, but I think this whole thing has just been a wake-up call to myself and to so many other people of my age that are just disillusioned with politics.
I would say that we're pretty divided and a lot of people are terrified.
To me, Rutgers should be a sanctuary campus because there are people from so many different backgrounds here. Schools and institutions, again, are places where people from all different backgrounds come together. So if that's not the case, then what's the purpose?
I voted for Hillary Clinton, and I'm as disappointed and upset as any other person, but I think what we need to be prepared for is to bring pressure to bear against the administration if they try to take action that's destructive or abusive.
At the end of the day, he is our president. He's just not a president I like.
And he's on a TV show down in Dallas, and he had these observations about who those people on the campuses and elsewhere actually are.
Well, that's exactly what we're looking at, is people who are, curled up in a fetal position, rocking back and forth, sucking their thumb, humming Jesus Loves Me. They have no idea what the process is all about or what they're doing or why they're mad. They just know that they don't feel right about it. And so why don't we take to the streets and, damage property and chant words that we didn't even know what they meant 3 weeks ago, such as misogyny and, xenophobia. These kids have gotten trophies for everything in life. They've never heard the word no. They're supposed to feel good all of the time. And when something doesn't go your way, now they don't have the ability to process that. How do I deal with disappointment? How do I deal with rejection?
And I just think these ads, over $100 million in ads, making Donald Trump into a cartoon character, and some of his comments obviously didn't help, have made these students outraged. How can we elect this guy? When in reality, the people that know him say, he ran a campaign to win, took no prisoners, like something we haven't seen before. But I never thought this reaction would still be happening. Yeah. This is over a week.
You know what? It's getting cold, though. And they're not going to be outside when it's really cold.
Point. We'll see how long this continues on.
It's going to continue until the inauguration. There's going to be a big protest on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure
on the 20th of January, and then I think it's
I don't know what they want out of it, because whether they like it or not, President-elect Trump is going to be the next president. It's the reality of it.
Deal with it, folks.
Let's go over to Heather now with some headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. We're talking about Hillary Clinton right now. As you were just talking about Donald Trump, she made her first public concession speech of sorts since her crushing loss to Donald Trump. Speaking at a Children's Defense Fund event, she says she is crushed by losing.
Coming here tonight wasn't the easiest thing for me. There have been a few times this past week when all I wanted to do was just to curl up with a good book or our dogs and never leave the house again.
Well, in the meantime, civil rights leader Jesse Jackson calling on President Obama to pardon her about that private email server before he leaves office. Voter fraud concerns now plaguing the race for governor in North Carolina. It's still too close to call. The allegations come after local election officials discovered several hundred ballots may have been filled out by the very same person. Governor Pat McCrory is currently trailing his Democrat challenger Roy Cooper about 5,000 votes. McCrory facing political backlash since July when he signed that controversial bathroom bill. And a Deadliest Catch star beaten, robbed, and left for dead on the side of the road.
Jake Harris, 22 years old, deckhand on the Cornelia Marine.
Well, that's Jake Harris. He's been hospitalized in intensive care with skull and brain injuries. He claims while driving home from a casino in Washington State, a man in the back seat of his car suddenly attacked him. He says he woke up on the side of the road without his wallet and his casino winnings. Those were both gone. 2 suspects are now under arrest. And this may look like an ordinary skyscraper in New York City. Guys, you've noticed this one before? It turns out, though, that this building could be spying on you. It's referred to as the Long Line Building. It's in New York City. It was built back in 1974 to house AT&T's worldwide network. But according to an investigation by The Intercept, it actually houses an NSA surveillance mega center codenamed Titan Point. Millions of phone calls, faxes, and emails are allegedly intercepted daily. NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden even referred to it in leaked documents. If there's such a thing as still faxes going out these days.
It's such a crazy skyscraper, though, because there are no windows.
I know.
Yeah,
we
it's
see that
creepy
when we
looking.
drive in through New York City.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. See.
All right, coming up on this Thursday, is the Democrats' love affair with Nancy Pelosi finally about to be over? Up next, you're about to meet the man who could take her job as minority leader.
And the Robertson family has some huge news about the future of Duck Dynasty. Did they just sign up for another season or call it quits?
Right.
That is
Wait, are we on it?
cheese.
That soup was very, very good.
Hey, you guys?
Yes, it was.
Position may actually be in jeopardy as many Democrats question, is it time for a change? Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan is mulling a bid to challenge Nancy Pelosi. Joins us right now from our nation's capital. Good morning to you, Congressman.
Good morning. Good morning.
You know, a lot of people are looking in and saying after she promised to pick up a bunch of seats so that you would be in the majority again. That didn't work out. Is it time for some new ideas?
No question about it. I mean, it is time for a new direction, a new way of doing business, a new Democratic Party, a Democratic Party 2.0, in which, we had a lot of people work really hard in this past election, and it didn't work out, and it hasn't worked out. It didn't work out in 10, it didn't work out in 14, it didn't work out in 16. So it's time to look for a new way of doing it, and I think there's a lot of people very interested in what the next version of the Democratic Party looks like.
Sure. Was Congresswoman Pelosi trying to scare you off yesterday when she said, hey, I've got 2/3 of the members of my caucus that are already behind me, so hey, and then I'm adding this part, Mr. Ryan, just run along. I've got it in the bag.
Well, there's all kinds of gamesmanship happening here, but, I'm an Irish fella, so I don't mind a good fight. And, we're just going to see. This is not about me, and it's not about Nancy Pelosi. Right. It's about the caucus. It's about the direction of the Democratic Party and the role we play in the United States of America. And I will tell you, if the Democratic Party is not strong, I believe that many, many interests can take over what the best interests of average people are that are in Youngstown, Ohio. And right now we have the Republican Party that's controlling the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we need to hold them accountable for now governing.
Sure, and the Republicans ran on, let's get more jobs. and your party had all sorts of things that it put out there. It's time to refocus on things people care about, isn't it?
I think the message from the earthquake that happened on Tuesday was that we weren't talking about jobs and the economy and providing opportunity. The great blue firewall that was Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, and almost even Minnesota collapsed for us because we weren't talking about those lunch bucket issues. We talked too much about job retraining, getting retrained to run a computer when our folks want to run a backhoe. They want to sling concrete. And we got to talk to those people who take a shower after work, not those people that just take a shower before work.
What a good point. All right. Interesting stuff. Tim Ryan, who would like to be the House Minority Leader. Tim, thank you very much for joining us live today from Capitol Hill. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. What do you think about him? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, still ahead on this Thursday, liberal mayors across the country vow to stay sanctuary cities. But can they do that? Judge Alex Ferrer here to weigh in next.
It's the final count of the Oval Office. Get this. Fox News contributor Karl Rove, who I've met in person, says President Obama is refusing to renovate the room, leaving security upgrades to Mr. Trump, so he's going to be forced to work across the street or at a stack table in the hall. And that's a quick look at the news by the numbers.
Thank you, Brian. All right, President Obama is weighing in on the future of his Deferred Action Program. Listen.
I will urge the president-elect and the incoming administration to think long and hard before they are endangering the status of what, for all practical purposes, are American kids.
But before President-elect Trump can take action, does President Obama have the power to pardon these illegal immigrants?
And would he do it before he left? Let's talk to former Dade County, Florida Circuit County Judge.
Wow, you threw county in there a bunch of times.
I did. The key is county. So could the President of the United States, before he exits, pardon, a blanket pardon for illegal?
He could. Let me just say as a disclaimer, personally, I'm completely opposed to illegal immigration, but I do agree with the President on this, because I've met children who were here, grew up with your kids, played at your house, went to school with your kids, and I had a little girl run up to me and say, can I be a lawyer even though I'm not here legally? And I said, well, someday, don't you think you'll be here legally? And her eyes just welled up. She's like 12 years old, and she goes, I don't think so. And it's just heartbreaking when you personalize, when you really meet them. That being said, legally, yes, he could pardon them. He could do a blanket pardon, just the same way that President Carter pardoned all the draft dodgers. He could do it all in unnamed individuals who violated this law. Or he could do it the way President Ford pardoned President Nixon with crimes committed within these dates. However, it becomes very difficult because the immigration laws are massive, massive. So you have
pardon from what?
Exactly, and that's the problem. You can't do a blanket pardon because then you're pardoning people who were already deported.
Yeah, what age are you DACA? All right? Did you come here at 2, 1, 3, 5, 7, 11? So what do you say?
All of those issues. But not only that, you have so many laws that you would have to pardon for that you'd have to cherry pick among the hundreds and hundreds of immigration laws. You have people who came here illegally, people who came here legally and then overstayed, people who failed to depart after a judge ordered them to depart, people who did identity theft in order to hide their identity, people who did Social Security fraud, tax fraud, gave false statements. So you have all of that mess, on top of which you can only pardon, or the president can only pardon for criminal offenses.
But Judge, I don't think he's going to be doing this. I think first he's going to get the criminals out, and I think by the time he gets to that, there'll be, I sense, some type of pathway to citizenship, which 65% of the American public wants. That's what I sense is going to happen. But first he wants to secure the wall, which leads us to sanctuary cities. Where's the president's power, and where are the mayor's powers?
Well, the sanctuary city concept is kind of all subsumed together because you have people who, Americans view it very differently because sanctuary cities will do several different things. I mean, there are some sanctuary cities who will just, we pull you over in traffic and we realize you're not legal and we're not going to turn you over to the feds. But you haven't committed a crime, you're working, you're paying taxes and all that stuff, we're just not going to do that. But most Americans are thinking, no, your sanctuary cities are protecting people who go out and commit a crime. They have them in jail after they finish with a conviction. Then they don't turn them over to the feds and they let them go. And everybody's opposed to that and should be. And some people are opposed to all of it. The feds really can't force the state to enforce federal law. They legally can't.
But they could hold the cash.
And that's where the power is. In other words, if they go to a city and say, okay, no, you don't have to help us, because typically you put an ICE detainer, basically you contact the local authority and say, you're holding so-and-so, we want you to hold them for us because we're going to deport them when you're done with them. And cities typically across the country cooperate. And then when they finish your sentence, they go, you're being held for ICE. And then they turn them over, and that's what happens. They could very easily say, look, if you're not going to help us, we're not going to give you any federal funds. And that is a big motivating factor because these cities beg for federal money.
Yeah, it all comes down to the money.
Absolutely. So they have the power of the purse, even though they can't legally force the governor to, and they can't charge them. There's no crime in failing to assist the federal government enforce federal crime.
Judge, thanks for being here this morning.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
The pride of Dade County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Senator Ted Cruz seen going to meetings in Trump Tower this week, but does that mean he's got a role in the Trump White House? The senator is here live to react to some of those rumors. He's coming up next.
I think he was just waving to me. And maybe they aren't the best of friends after all. What Bernie Sanders just said about Hillary Clinton's brutal loss. Next.